All right, Rip City Drive, Dwight and Chad. We're live here at Trailblazer Media Day, and what a pleasure it is to welcome Trailblazers General Manager Joe Cronin to the show. I think this is the first time he's been on the program. But, Joe, it's great to see you, man. You look good, like you're enjoying the summertime a little bit.
Thank you, guys, for having me. It's good seeing you.
Easier summer this year after all the different things that were going down last year, I would imagine.
Yep, a little quieter summer this year than last. This time last year I was exhausted going into media day. This summer has been the draft was really heavy for us, as far as we got the Deni trade done that afternoon and the Donovan Clingan draft pick that night. So, but it was all condensed into one day, and the rest of the summer we've just been, working on a lot of stuff internally, doing a lot of player development, and then, of course, we're at a stage with our roster where we've got a lot of work still to do. We have to get a lot better still. So, but we've been more opportunistic, just trying to, stay active in the market, but, knowing that we don't have to be in a huge rush here to make a big move because we like what we have right now. We want to see it grow a little bit, and we can get back into it as the season goes along.
Take us back to draft night real quick. It seemed like a major win at the time for the franchise, but did you expect Clingan to be there with an opportunity to select him? How did that play out as you were going through the evening?
Mm-hmm. I didn't. I thought, one of two things would happen. I thought someone would take him ahead of us, just one of the teams that had those picks already, or I thought somebody would trade up and get him. His camp told us early on, hey, there's a slight chance he could get to you. But I always thought somebody would jump up ahead of us. And it's something we were doing as well, as exploring all those move-up options in case we felt like we needed to. And just felt really fortunate that it broke the way it did.
You've had a chance to watch these guys out at the PF for several weeks now. What have you seen that you like, Joe?
Mm-hmm. The number one thing I've seen is the competitiveness of the group. It's something we're really going to, something we've been trying to build and something that we've continually stressed, but something that we're really going to see play out this year is the competitiveness of this group and how these guys are going to have to compete for the roles that they earn. Like, Chauncey's going into this with no preconceived notions. Like, it doesn't matter where we drafted you or how much we pay you, you're going to earn everything you get, and Chauncey will also say things like, we don't make that decision, you do. This has got to play out in camp. And, we've had all of our guys here for the last 3 weeks basically playing a ton of 5-on-5 every day. And consistently, that's what we've seen is just guys really going at it, playing hard, trying to make their marks in this league. And for us, that's exciting, like seeing that competitive drive and spirit.
For Scoot Henderson, important offseason for him after a challenging, rookie year with ups and downs that you see from rookies. But what do you make of the work that he's put in during the course of the summer and the progress in his game?
Mm-hmm. It's one thing, you really study throughout the draft process and going into the draft before you make these selections is what type of worker are they? How are they wired? What's their mentality? And, you hope your intel's correct, but you never really know until you get a guy. And, being with Scoop for over a year now, it's probably the thing that gives me the most comfort and the most positivity about him is he's just wired to succeed. The way he works, the way he studies the game, the way he's so passionate about it. So it's been fun to watch that progress, and see him be so committed to his game. He knew coming off of last season that he had a lot of work to do, and he knows today that he continues to have a lot of work that he needs to do. But we're continuing to see him make steps, This year is going to be interesting for him. He's obviously really capable, and I think we saw a lot of those capabilities the last 2-3 months of the season. We want to see that more consistently. And at the same time, we also know, okay, this is still a 20-year-old point guard who's trying to learn to navigate. There's going to be some lapses in judgment or, struggles making reads or inconsistencies shooting the ball or missed defensive assignments. Like, we've got to, learn to, accept those, but yet fix them as quickly as possible. We're obviously really excited about him, but also know that, hey, he's a work in progress. He's 20.
Okay, now what about Shaedon Sharpe? What are you looking to see from him?
Yeah. A lot of the same stuff. I think Shaedon we're fortunate we at least got an extra year from him. Granted, it was only 30-some games, but we at least got to see him put together a pretty good run of basketball where, being a lead guy, being high usage, putting up decent efficiency, being a pretty good two-way player. For Shaedon is just take these steps. It's how can we increase your usage and your efficiency at the same time? Can we, maximize your shot selection? Can we get you to better spaces on the floor? Can we use you in the open floor more and as a cutter? Can you provide consistent, impactful defense? So it's for Shaedon, it's not showing these flashes or not just putting up 25 and 5. It's can you play winning basketball and move that bottom line?
So you see him as a high usage guy. That's his future.
I think so. We've seen enough in his ball skills and feel and shot creation to be able to point to in a direction that we think he's going to be one that is going to need the ball and can go get it. Our key balance right now, especially in his early years, is putting him in some positions to succeed and trying to maintain his efficiency. So we'll tell him things like, hey, in a closeout situation, we need you to fire that three. We don't want you to get off the ball there. We don't want you to put it down. You just got to let it go. Just working on those things. He's still figuring out how to play.
Hey, Joe, last year I remember Chauncey Billups towards the end of the season, he would joke about just getting tired of hearing from the trainers and the injury report game to game because so many guys were out of the lineup and you dealt with so many injuries. I know what that's like as a coach and not knowing who you're going to have available night to night, but for you and your staff, how difficult is that in terms of not getting access to some of the usable data that you want to be able to know what you have in certain players and different combinations of guys on the floor?
Mm-hmm. That was probably the most difficult thing about last season. We didn't have high expectations necessarily from a one-loss standpoint, but we hope to walk away with at least a pretty good amount of clarity as to what this roster is. Both from an individual level, like where are these guys headed, which guys can be a long-term part of this, and from a team level, like what systems are we putting in place, like, style of play-wise that are, going to be like drivers for us winning basketball games in the future. And coming out of last season, I just had a lot of question marks. And to your point about the data, like we just didn't get a whole lot of it, from individuals or from rotations. So one thing I would love to get this year is more clarity, and gain more focus on, okay, this is where each individual is headed and this is where systemically, this is succeeding for us.
Curious too, everybody's talking about the next draft and how good it's going to be, and there's obviously a lot of guys available who can help NBA teams. Is it possible even to get a draft pick back in a deal with anybody now, knowing how good that class is?
Mm-hmm. It definitely makes it more complicated. These NBA teams have gotten so good with their, high school scouting and amateur scouting before these guys get to college or, into the high-level overseas programs that in a given year, teams have done a good job of knowing, okay, hey, this is a really good draft, hey, this is a subpar draft, and then acting accordingly. So I don't think it's ever impossible to get into a draft like this one, but you might have to find the right team, a team that, is going to value the immediate help over the long-term help. Like you got to be, this is where I always challenge me and my staff to be active. We've got to be out there making calls. We've got to stay on the phone with these teams, because we need to be there if they choose to make a pivot or like a win now move. We've got to be ready.
How excited are you about Deni Avdija and his versatility, and then you also get a guy on such a team-friendly contract? I mean, it's like the best of both worlds, but your thoughts on that deal and what he's going to bring?
Mm-hmm. Was thrilled to get that one done. It's something we were trying to do, at the trade deadline the previous February. We're really active trying to get talks with Washington to a place where they would actually listen, but they just weren't there yet. So when talks regenerated back in May and June, was excited, and then it was just, okay, I knew he had a huge market and I knew a lot of teams were interested. it was getting an offer together that was, very strong, that put us in the pole position. And it took that whole draft week to get that done. I thought like Monday, Tuesday, I was worried, okay, we don't have it. But by Thursday, we started getting real momentum, and we're just really excited once that got done. And for all those reasons you just said, Deni's, he's a really good player. He's got a lot of growth left in his game. He brings so many things that we don't do. He's got his versatility, handle, pass, shoot, guard, passion, spirit, all these things that we're hoping to find more of. And Deni checks so many of those boxes, along with, like you said, the good contract and the certainty that he's going to be here a long time.
Had some rough season lately, Joe, and I'm curious whether or not you think that has impacted your young players.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about the energy you're seeing at the practice facility.
Mm-hmm.
You think they're okay moving forward now and ready to kind of shake that a little bit?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question, and it's definitely something I'm mindful of and paying close attention to, because I worry about that as well, that, does sustained losing negatively impact a player long term? And I think, the answer is yes, it can. The part that gives me comfort and the part where I'm really confident that we're good at is knowing that our environment is strong for these guys. And I think we've seen, like, the way they respond to Chauncey, say like last year was a good example, where a lot of injuries, couple of really bad losses, but not a real positive season. But I thought they always played hard, and that's the thing I really point to, is do they come out and compete every night? And as I see them do that, and I see their spirit, and I know their competitive drive, I'm pretty comfortable knowing that as soon as we're ready to take that step, they're going to be right there with it, and they're not going to bring those bad habits with them. But I do think, like, you got to have the right environment. If you don't, you could lose them.
I did want to ask you one question before you go. I know you're not on the business side, but the announcement that the Trailblazers are going to go direct to air on K2 and increase your reach by about 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
Fans are thrilled because they're hitting me up all the time. What do you think about that deal, getting it done, and now everyone having access across the state to Trailblazer games?
Yeah, ecstatic. I mean, it's such a cool thing for Trailblazer fans, and it's something like, how do you even sum it up? Like, they get to, from the ground floor, join this journey with us. Every person that's not able to go to a game, every person that may have lost touch with the team over the years. Now we have a great avenue for them to watch this group and to hopefully fall in love with this group.
Sad news today about the death of Dikembe Mutombo, and I'm thinking that probably with your background and all in Colorado, that he was a special player to you.
Special player. Condolences to his family and friends. I got to see Dikembe, right when he was drafted. I lived in Denver at the time. Saw the Nuggets play a bunch, his first 4 or 5 years with the team, and everything you think about Dikembe and see and remember, it was so true. And in that community at that time, like, he was so impactful for that team. And of course we all remember the upset against Seattle, where they I think they were the 8 seed, right? And Seattle was the 1 seed.
First time it had ever happened.
With Dikembe laying on the floor with the ball above his head celebrating. But I mean, he was just, a special player in our league, a special player for that city, a special person for the game of basketball and for the world as a whole. I mean, the work that he did, just, you can't say I can't, commend him enough for the work he's done for, people in Africa and America and all these different countries. He's just one of the great ones.
All right, the Trailblazers getting ready to kick off a brand new season, 24-25. Joe Cronin here on the Rip City Drive. Hey, Joe, thanks for your time. It's great to catch up, and it's great to see you refreshed and ready for a new season, but good luck this year.
Thank you guys very much.